Hey, what's up, guys? It's your boy Patience, and I decided to come at you guys with a little new one. In this one, I just wanted to kind of showcase how I went about doing my link from the Wind Waker, um, and I also want to showcase how I used UVs in order to get his logo printed at the back of his shield. Here, what I'm showcasing is how I've upgraded the character with toon shades. As you can see, his shadows reflect perfectly to the lighting, both adversely and inversely, which I thought was pretty darn amazing. I achieved this by working on the normals of the character, which helps the character to pick up lighting perfectly. Um, which helps the character to pick up the lighting perfectly from most or any angle. So this was something I thought was very important to implement onto my characters during designing, as this will help my characters to come more alive in a toon shade type of sense. It's ironic that the first time that I experimented on this, I was able to get it knocked down, um, and that was with Nintendo's character Link. Nintendo's character is one of my favorites. One of the characters I used to play with most in my childhood, which is one of the most iconic characters for Nintendo's franchise, I believe. And this is one of my favorite titles besides Ocarina of Time. My third would probably be Breath of the Wild. Wind Waker was also one of the games I couldn't necessarily play myself, and at the time I think it was clocked at 480p on the Nintendo GameCube. And I used to sit down and watch my brother play this game. And at the time, I liked it, but not as much as I like it now. So sometimes I do wish that I was able to, at least spend a little bit more time and watch my bro play as he went through the story from beginning to end. Um, but as things go, you would say. So that was what inspired me to create this character this time round. That little feeling of nostalgia, and obviously we've had Tears of the Kingdom, and there's also mentions of a new title coming out, which is Echoes of, I believe it's Wisdom. And so I figured this would be a good time to kind of do a little fandom um, contribution to Nintendo's character. So yeah, so I've implemented more Toon Shade. I think I might just go ahead and animate this character as well at some stage. I ain't gonna do anything too fancy. It's just gonna be something very basic, guys, because I don't want to step too far away from my own work. As you can see, I've implemented the toon shade onto the sword as well. This is a turntable that I uploaded previously, and this is it again with the new lighting effects. With some of his, I guess you could say, clothing, I may have put maybe too much differentiations with color textures, but that is something that I could easily adjust later on, or I might just leave it the same because it's not supposed to be like a masterpiece of any sort. It is a low poly profile picture for my portfolio as well, guys. My poly counts and my triangle counts, my vertice counts were nothing really too special. Mostly because I did go ahead and add subdivisions. I don't think that was really the reason, but I did implement subdivision surfaces, and I did auto smooth. as well, implementing maybe I think it may have been a few, I believe, modifiers to help with the auto shading process. As you can see, I went to town with modeling the sword a little bit here. Had a little bit of fun with. I'm not fully done with it, but I'm not sure if I'm going to go the extra mile. But I may do so depending on how I animate and what I animate. I think I'm going to keep it very simple, which would be either him walking or running or walking off into a run cycle, and maybe implement a background. If I do that, that will be something for you guys to look out for. There's no reason for me not to do it because it's not my character, so I don't have to worry about copyrights my darn self. And as you can see here, the character looks very convincing for a toon shaded character. So here I open up my side panels. I'm not sure exactly what I'm getting ready to do. Um, it could be moving around the light. Moving. No, now I'm gonna show you the reference picture that I used in order to create my link. I would have loved it was something that I could have done from my own memory, which is something I could do, but to have him looking exactly the way I got him looking, I did need reference because it's been a very long time since I've seen this Link my darn self or even played as him. Like I said, I couldn't really play Wind Waker. I had always wished they would make an updated version. I know there are some very, very artistic people out there with great visionary minds remaking a lot of some of these titles. But unfortunately, seemingly, Wind Waker is not one of them. For anyone that doesn't know, I would recommend checking out Ocarina of Time Ghibli Studio, I think it's called, which someone's actually completely toonified Ocarina of Time. They show it from a third person point of view, which is awesome. And they also state that they're kind of running it for kind of like a movie kind of episodic case scenario. So be sure to go check that out because it's pretty darn jolly, it's pretty darn fun, pretty awesome to watch. Here, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to use the UV mapping to get the picture from his shield onto my 3D Link's shield. But because it's been a while since I'd used the UVs, I was having a bit of troubles. But having a bit of trouble is not always a bad thing when using your 3D platform, because what you will see here is how many methods I do try to go through in order to get this projected onto the back of my shield from memory. So anyway, you will see me load up the picture. Because I'm working on my Surface Pro, it does take a little while to load in, which is very annoying. But once the image does load in, I begin to try and problem solve how I'm going to get the picture from its position onto my character's back, which was it weren't as bad as I thought it was going to be, because I had forgotten a few turns. That's mostly because I'm working on my Surface Pro. I try to use the most simplest formats and paths when I'm working on especially 3D characters. This one I modeled. When did I model this one? I modeled this one I think yesterday, and I've roughly practically finished him today. I didn't really take any of the poly counts into considerations. So there's nothing special there. I did find myself running back in kind of like tracing over my steps in order to allow things to be done. Like I said, because it weren't anything, I wasn't working towards a professional goal, or it was just for my own pleasure. So any mistakes that I made, which is stuff that I do try to practice myself in doing, instead of like deleting, I continue, so as to kind of, I guess you could say, find an alternative around my mistakes, because I feel like backstepping doesn't only make things slightly too easy. So sometimes Blender says, or your 3D platform, sometimes your 3D platform might say, well, you can only go back a few steps. You can't go back so far. For this is one of the reasons why I try my best not to take too many steps backwards, but to continue from my mistakes and to work over them, so as to try and find ways of reaching the end goal uh, at that cost, as it were, which I think is quite fun at the same time. So here you can see me highlighting my shield, which is the basic steps you would take in most case scenarios. But I don't have a clue with what I'm doing here, because I'm thinking to myself, because it's been ages since I've done the UV unwrapping method, and because usually I just use my own textures, and most of my characters that I 3D design are usually pretty plain, so I don't usually have to use UVs in any case or sense. It's like with my characters, most times I don't even have to. I want to get into it. It is something that I will start doing, which is placing seams on my characters, but I haven't actually placed any seams onto any of my characters thus far. So every single character that you've seen me create and showcase, I have not placed any seams on them. So most of the coloring is, if not done with shaders, then it will be no, it's always shaders. I'm pretty sure I always use shaders. It's maybe once or twice I've done like some sort of projection method, and which was pretty darn fun. Anywho, this is me moving the shield into position so I can see exactly what I'm doing. Somewhere here is where you'll be able to see that my topology is not necessarily the best or the finest, but for what I was going for, it helped me get the job done. If I wanted to, I could use decimate in order to knock some of the numbers down, build the character up in a more functional manner, so as to, or for the purpose of, but like I said, this was just for my own pleasure. I don't aim to put this character into a game. I'm not trying to sell this character to be put into a game, and I'm not really reaching out to any game vendors, as it were, so as to be employed as such. The goal was just to put this into my portfolio, so you guys could see what I've been doing in my spare time. As to my working time, I am still working on my stuff in the background, as it were. So here you can see that I don't have an iota of what I'm doing fully. And this is where I begin trying to suss out exactly how I'm going to use my UVs to get onto the shield. So I'm not sure if I've gone with the whole smart unwrap and UV unwrap yet, but I can see that I've opened up the UV shader, or whatever you call it, and I'm trying out this method. This method is a method that you would use at times. Everything that you're seeing on the screen at the moment would be called islands, and the aspects of your character. This would be aspects of my character's shield or the character's shield. Um, yeah, the circles, they would be from the some of the objects that I had used in order to create a handle for the shield. So they've been smart and wrapped. So what I'm trying to do here is get these things out of the way that you can see highlighted. So the prominent shape in the middle of the screen, in the center of the screen, which is the actual shield, I want to highlight that and get that onto the picture of the shield that you can see in the background behind all this mess. Because I'm thinking that's how I'm going to be able to project the picture of the shield onto the back cover of my 3D shield. But unfortunately, that's not how it works in this instance. In this instance, using this method, I believe would be one of the most common ways, I believe it would be, of using this method would be once you've cut seams and you're getting ready to project your images from whatever, I guess you could say, a photorealistic situation. Same thing that I'm doing here, but surprisingly it was not working for me. So I believe I did go through the method of going into one of the side panel options and creating a new target, as it were, UV target, which I go into my what do you call that? My shader, which you will see in a moment. I try to load it up, but it just doesn't work this way. Instead, I was getting a whole load of random colors and just the islands on my shields, which obviously was not what I was going for. So here I was confused, but this is one method that is possible, or a way of using the UVs in a successful manner in order to get whatever you want mapped from one region to another. So once I get that locked again, maybe I will showcase that just in case we have troubles with that as well. It's like I said, UV is not one of the things where I have a stronghold in at the moment. So it's something that I may need to, if not revise on, kind of like somewhat restudy. But I can use it in a kind of like a basic format. The basic format being, I can actually use UVs, but it's not one of my strongholds, is a better way of putting it. But as you will see, as I go through this, you will see me, here it is. This is where I try to kind of like activate it. So I go back into my shader, because I'm going off of memory here. And I'm thinking, if I do this, then I should be able to find the map of the image that I'm trying to use. But unfortunately, it was not working. Now, I'm not sure if it was a glitch or if it was something that was actually doing wrong my darn self. But I have done UV mapping like that before, and it works usually like a breeze. You hover your islands over your image, and your image is automatically on your 3D, it's projected onto your 3D object. But in this instance, it wasn't working. So I went for the other methods, because usually I don't need to try to activate my UVs, and most certainly I don't need to open up a UV shader node in order to allow that activation to be done, at least not when I'm trying to do stuff like this, which is like basic level UV mapping, somewhat projection. So in the end, I went for the most basic method, which was the correct method to use. But it's been a while since I've done anything to do with UVs, so it wasn't the first approach. I went for the more technical approach, I guess. But like I said, um, I think that was the way that I just tried was more manual. And I do prefer manual because you kind of have a little bit more control over things. As you can see here, I've got just about the right amount of control. So this is the method that I go with, which is successful. But for some reason, I thought that weren't gonna work. So I went for the UV node, and once I plug that in, I tell it what I want it to kind of like map through. But as you can see, it's just not doing it. Now I can't remember if I don't think I'm doing anything wrong. Maybe I could have used a color mixer instead, but that was a bit confusing for me because I figured that would have worked anyway. So I went with this method, and this one, if you have troubles with any of the other methods, this method is more likely going to work, especially if it's something simple like what I'm going for here. Um, this is the most, I guess you could say, common method for, I guess you could say, cheating. What do I mean by cheating? It's not necessarily cheating, but I wasn't really in the mood to go ahead and kind of like model everything that you can see on the shield, because it's supposed to be just a low poly kind of modeling showcase. Um, but UVs is another kind of stylish way of kind of achieving high standards. I could have actually went ahead and put maybe um, like a bump on it, but I didn't go with that either. Um, I don't think there was any need, and I still don't think there's any need. I think this looks just good enough for what we have, and it keeps that little simple toon effect kind of visual, which is exactly what I was going for. If anyone knows Wind Waker, it is a very, very simplistic version of, I guess you could say, every single Zelda game and of the toon style in general. Which is why it's so fascinating, and which is why it's one of my favorites, because it's not one of those things that you necessarily take seriously, but it has such a powerful storyline, which is amazing. So that itself, to me, is very artistic. Not anyone can pull stuff off like that. Which is what I thought was very fascinating. Nintendo has a way of kind of working with the most basic of, I guess you could say, engines, the most basic tools, and yet providing very high standards and achieving it very well. Whether or not they get praised enough for their work is one thing, but they most certainly do deliver with the technology that they use. So I kind of went for that kind of attitude, as it were, which is just kind of keeping things very simple, very basic. And I figured it was a very darn good look. Um, like I said, there is still a little bit more I could do to this in order to make it a little bit more original. Whether I'm skilled enough to do it my darn self, I am not sure. But what really helped me pull this off to give it this kind of the featured look of the actual game Link of Wind Waker was the fact that I was able to focus my talents on the normals. Without the normals, it wasn't really working so well. If you take a look at the uploads I uploaded just the other day, it unfortunately, it was falling short of the standards of where it was supposed to be, which is why I dedicated more time into it, of course. And I thought this was actually going to take me about 2 hours at most, but this took me quite a while to model and to get to this point that I'm at now. I think it was roughly, I can't say for sure, but it's about a good 12 hours I think I've spent on this. Um, Mostly because of trying to ensure that I was able to, get the right shading method to replicate the game as closely as possible. And unfortunately, I've been getting like a lot of migraines when sitting at my screens. Very much so, unfortunately. I think because the grey screen with Blender, every time I sit by Blender or my 3D platform, every time I sit by my 3D platform, I keep getting these very excruciating headaches. So I've had to kind of like ease off. That's why I ain't been able to publish as much or as quickly as I would like to. There's actually another project that I'm working on with my character from Kaiseki that I showcased just the other day. But I've been unable to progress with it any further because of my migraines. Unfortunately, the situations that I am in at the moment, the lighting conditions are not most favorable. Um, which is in my working space. So, I've got to kind of sacrifice that at least a little bit, understanding that there is a certain time or that there is a time span that I'm able to work in or work in and out of. Um, but taking that out of consideration, as you can see, I was able to get that mapped onto the shield nice and easily. And I was pretty fond of it. As you can see, there was no reason to do any modeling or any more modeling. You can tell me what you think about the jewel that's in the sword. As you can see at the back of the sword, it's slightly well, it's very dark, and at the front of the sword, it picks up a lot of lighting. Because what I did is I put a gradient onto the sword. Um, I kind of wanted to control the gradient a little more, but I was having a little bit of trouble with that. I'm not sure if it was a glitch again, because I have suffered a little bit of glitches with my 3D platform quite a few times over my time of having this. Um, but I don't think it was really that important. What I did notice was with the reference picture, if you look at it closely, that jewel in this sword is very it's very it picks up a lot of shadows, so that's why I went with that kind of theme anyway. Otherwise, I would have went with something entirely different. But I was very satisfied with it, and I'm very satisfied with this at the moment. Now I do know that he has a casing for his sword as well. This version of Link. I'm not sure if I'm going to create that. Most pictures that I see with him, he doesn't really. I don't really see the case. He's always like just holding the sword. He's got the shield. Um, I don't know if the case disappears and reappears. It's been a while. I have been looking at little gameplays of it here and there, just to kind of familiarize myself with the character. Because I'm thinking that I may animate this character just a little bit. So I'd like to get a little bit of characteristics in there if I possibly can. Um, what I have picked up is that his characteristic is seemingly very different to the main links in most of the titles thus far. Because he shows, I guess they all do show like expressions, emotions. but he seems to be a bit more easy to read as a character, where the other links is like it's very hard to understand who he may be as a character. My dance self, I find it hard to think if he's a cocky character, or if he's like, like a strange kind of character, someone that, because he goes into dark places, dealing with monsters as a kid, and he, he's fighting Ganon. He's dealing a lot with like magic, and magic that can control things, magic that can give him advantage over things, and so understanding who he is as a character, knowing that he never really speaks, is very tricky. Whereas I tend to find with Wind Waker's link, he's a little bit more easy to read, which helps out a lot. I can see that I've got a little mistake there with my handle. It looks like it's being duplicated, but like I said, it's not something that I'm going to showcase off. This bit here that I'm showing you now, you probably never would see anyway. So the reason why you're only seeing this now because I just wanted to showcase how I would work, how I roughly work on my goods, and the UV mapping of a picture onto a 3D object. I also wanted to showcase the lighting of the toon shade on my character, which replicates a little more closer to the actual Wind Waker game, as to just slapping toon shades onto my character. These toon shades are a little bit more, I guess you could say, respected within the 3D industry. So I was very pleased with that. And I can't wait to implement that kind of style onto my own character, the one that I had posted up recently, Jikabu, for my other project. So anyway, guys, it has been nice spending time with you. I hope you like what you see. I have a lot more information, I guess you could say, illustrations coming out to publish onto you guys pretty darn soon. I've still been working on two of my other comics as well. One's in volume 4, one's in volume 3. I've been thinking about redubbing one of them as well, which would be Kaiseki. And yeah, everything seems to be running smoothly there. If you guys are interested, please be sure to leave your comments down below. If you don't get any responses, because I have been trying my best to respond to as much people as possible, then that is a technical issue that is not coming or stemming from my side at all. So I can only apologize for that, guys. Be sure to check out my gaming station, which would be Patience Gamer. Patience, all in small caps, Gamer with a capital G. Because there you will find me talking about a lot of games. I think I might have a Zelda game. I don't think I've published a Zelda game as of yet. And I will be publishing a Pokemon game soon. And anyone that doesn't know, when I do publish these things, I'll be talking about why I don't necessarily go out my way to purchase games nowadays. So what I mean by that is I'm talking about games that I find I would rather purchase for my GPUs, because the GPUs that we purchase nowadays are so powerful, but the games don't be delivering so much, which can be very disappointing. One game that I would really like to see redubbed in a fashion such as Ocarina of Time, which is one of my favorite games from my childhood, would be Disgaea 7. Redubbed, revamped in a fashion where it's open world and things are lifted off the page from 2D onto 3D. Here, as you can see, there's a shadow that's persisting. It's its longevity, as it were, on my character is consistent. So what I realized, if I turn the light off from my other folder, then things went back to normal. So if you have any problems there, remember, and you're like me, your work is slightly sloppy, just remember, continue working in the folder where all your goods are in, and switch off the other folders so that it doesn't interact or kind of, stump your workflow in any way so as to leave you confused, because it can overlap on your work. Anyway, guys, it's your boy Patient. Leave your thumbs, your likes, and your comments down below if you do have any queries, guys. Over and out.
Hard work, your boy, hard work. He puts it